I'm Teresa Matich with the Investing News Network. Here with me today is Rob McEwen. He's the founder of Goldcorp and current CEO and chief owner of McEwen Mining. Thank you for joining me.
Pleased to be here, Teresa. Thank you.
So the Sprout conference was taking place recently, and you were talking about a bit of a mining rant that you had. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, it was something that was published in the CIM, Canadian Institute of Mining magazine. And it was about some of the issues that I see that are wrong in the public markets. One is that we push all sorts of information to our shareholders, and they're usually very large documents, they're very difficult to read, and most of them I think end up in a garbage pail before they're read, because they're so long and mind-numbing. And I really think we need to simplify that. I think that our auditors and our security lawyers have to change a lot. I mean, when you get a financial statement that has 25 to 50 pages of notes, who's going to read it?
Yeah.
And yet, it's all about full, plain, and clear disclosure. It's full disclosure, but it's not plain and it's not clear. And we have to move back to that, because I think a lot of investors are thinking, maybe management's trying to fool me, or maybe lie to me by giving me all this information that I don't understand. It's almost like we're making investors illiterate. And in the legal profession, the security law, I'm also concerned that as the years have gone by, the number of rules and regulations have increased dramatically, and there almost seems to be a direct positive correlation between the size of the rule book and the size of the frauds that are being perpetrated on the public. So the rules aren't protecting us. And so you look at Bernie Madoff, he stole $60 billion. You look at Enron, there are all sorts of stories, they're endless. And you say, shouldn't, when we have more rules, we should have smaller frauds?
Yeah.
But it's not happening. So you go, why don't we simplify this? I think it's time to have Moses come down from the mount for the second time and just say, here are carved in these tablets are the 10 security rules that everybody lives by. And so when you do that, when everybody knows the rules, then you can spot a thief from across the room and you can call them out. But today there's so many rules, there is no one person in the world with the capacity or the ability to understand all of the rules and regulations. So it's easy for people to hide behind.
Yeah, of
So
course.
we need to simplify that. And the other part of the rant was governments around the world have made a habit of taking deposits from companies and their shareholders. And I said it's time that we have a contract with governments and sets out all the terms of the engagement. If you break it, you pay. So right now, mining companies go in, they have to post bonds for environmental and other purposes. They have to build community services that those governments should have built long ago for their citizens. And then they change the rules. They increase the taxes, they change the ownership structure. And I said, time for the mining industry to push back against governments and say, we have a contract, you break the rules, you pay. You post a bond. And you post it in an international financial center outside your country, outside your law, and that bond is there. We have an arbitrator in one of those centers, and they award the company if the country's failed to honor the agreement. That's going to take a little longer, I think, but...
Yeah. Well, and there's definitely a sense, I think, in the world outside of mining that everybody in mining has got tons of money and they're just greedy, but mining can do a lot of good, and in fact, you've done some good recently with the money you've made.
Mining does a lot, and I think it's a generous industry, the people within it. We've been fortunate. Mother Nature's been very kind to me, and we've been fortunate to be able to share it. We set up, my wife and I set up a center for medical research. It's called the McEwen Center for Regenerative Medicine. It deals with stem cells. And what I'm particularly excited about, we give out a prize of $100,000 a year to researchers around the world. And our first recipient was a Japanese researcher that was able to take a skin cell and reverse engineer it into a stem cell. And from a stem cell, it can become any part of your body.
Wow.
Now, the really important aspect to this research was there was all sorts of controversy around stem cells and the source of them coming from the embryo. His discovery jumps over all of that controversy and takes it away. So 2 years after he won our prize, he won the Nobel Prize for that same piece of research.
Oh my goodness.
So then I went, all right, our goal is to see how many more Nobel Prize winners we can find, and hopefully we can find a number of them in Canada and
Yeah,
encourage them.
that's a good goal to have. So back to your share price or investor rant. What would you like to see specifically in the way of the 10 commandments that you're talking about? Any ideas?
I think, well, one, simplification. Keep it simple, keep it clear, keep it small in number. So it's very easy for everybody to understand. You need the legal profession. I mean, when you look at a prospectus, do you have to read 15 pages of risk factors? Do you need financial statements that are that extensive? All the repetition that goes into that documentation. And also, shareholders, they bought the company. They must have done some research on it. Don't assume they're idiots. And don't assume... The law right now presumes that everybody who's running a public company is a crook. And really, there may be a criminal element, but it's a very small segment. But don't put the whole industry through that type of hurdle to get over.
Yeah, I guess it's understandable if you look back to the 80s or whatnot, but there's something to be said for giving people the benefit of the doubt.
Well, criminals are distributed throughout society, but not everyone is criminal.
Of course.
Otherwise, society wouldn't work. Most of us are very honest and want to be treated that way.
And so what can investors do in the meantime to deal with this situation better?
They could start pounding the table. They could start saying, you're giving me a document I can't read. I don't want it. Rewrite it. Write it in simpler terms. Go to the security regulators and say, I want to understand these rules so I can know when I shouldn't put my money in here. I shouldn't put my money with this guy Bernie Madoff, and he's going to take it from me. The accounting profession, I think it's time for individual investors, for management, for people that are financial advisors, all to go back and say, yes, there is something wrong with the system, and we want to change it. Sort of like that movie, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
There you go. That would be quite a movement.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me, Rob.
Teresa, thank you.
I'm Teresa Matic with the Investing News Network.